Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing.
And welcome, everybody, to Morning Magazine for this May 6th, 2020. Your host, James J. Malouf, here today. And we are joined by not only Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker. Good morning, Shawn.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
We also have with us Wisconsin Rapids Police Chief Blevins. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Appreciate you guys joining us. And, of course, we have our good friends from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Good morning, Kev. How's it going? Appreciate you. He can't, of course, talk to us. But so
He can
talk if he wants.
He can talk. He's a pro. He's sticking to the gig there. We, of course, have you guys in to talk about 80s and 90s baseball. No, we'll see if we have.
We get there.
We will get there, hopefully, in the interview.
Take an hour on that.
I do want to remind people that you guys are open to taking your phone calls out there, everyone. 715-424-2600. If anybody wants to call in with questions, the interview is open to you as well. Where would you like to start, though? Because this is coming into the interview today. I was looking at this and just doing some homework. And there's a bunch of places we could go with the interview today.
Sure.
Where would you like to start, sir?
Well, first, you don't have to call me sir.
I've been doing it a little too much, actually. Once in a while, it's all right.
Hair?
But yeah.
What is it?
What hair? What hair?
Okay. Well, first, reminder, I know the health department did a press release in reference to the COVID-19 testing coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday here at the Wood County Highway Department. We're working that with the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department. We'll have some folks there just to make sure that things go smoothly with traffic control. But so we'll have some local testing going on, 300 on Friday, 300 on Saturday. Please call for an appointment. I've got the number here, 715-421-8931. It's by appointment only. I know some of their sites are just drive up. This will be a drive up opportunity as well, but you need to have an appointment and some symptoms. So
Right, I was going to mention that.
Yeah, so that'll be this Saturday. It's nice to see that locally that we're getting some testing done. I'm hoping that'll give us a good indication of how much the virus is around here in central Wisconsin. Just with the past 7-8 weeks, I know that we've had 2 here in Wood County, and both people recovered. But it's hard to look at statistics when there hasn't been a lot of testing done.
Right.
So I know it's taken a while to at least get some testing done. So I'm interested to see what the results are once we get them.
It's a good point to make there too, because one of the things with these statistics we keep getting, I keep seeing a lot of people who whatever their goals are, whether like if they want the state to reopen right now, they will use those stats to back that argument, and vice versa. Correct. People that want to keep things on lockdown use the stats, and it's important to look at these numbers as data, but also data that is unfounded. Not unfounded, but it has some wiggle room to it in the sense that there are so many cases that we might not know about yet. Right. And again, that's not to scare anybody. It's just to keep people on guard, keep people warned. That it's something that we don't know the full realm of this thing yet. And until we have strategic testing for everybody, it's something everybody's got to keep in mind. And I know for like me, that the big thing, I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about my mom and dad. I'm worried about getting them sick or something like that. So it's something to keep in mind. And it's great that the National Guard and that are behind this, that we are, like you said, getting some testing here. That's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. So that's coming up this weekend, but it's just weird times,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Looking at, I feel terrible for all the seniors in high school that, their graduation is either being postponed or they're not having it. It's just
The kids that are losing out on their senior seasons.
Yeah. The athletes, whether it's baseball, track, golf, or anything like that. I just and I coach football at Lincoln High School, and just thinking of all the kids that, I coach that are seniors this year, I feel really, really, bad.
Yeah.
But I know that, at least all the high schools are doing a great job trying to recognize the kids that are, moving forward their lives. And no, this is just a tough time. It's weird. It's just a weird thing to go through, and it's such it's different, and it's a really big public safety concern that we got to work through together.
We've touched on this since the last time we talked and everything, kind of going into the virus and the safer at home order and those sorts of things. How you at the sheriff's department have adapted to this. We haven't gotten really talked to you about this, Chief Blevins. I almost called you Chef Blevins.
He did do better.
I was just going to say, I mean, because
there was a Vestadog competition. Who won that?
Yeah, I think that was rigged.
Oh.
At least I can say that. But.
How have you guys at the Rapids Police Department kind of adjusted to this?
Well, we have been working very closely, Shawn and I. Our responses are almost mirrored. And it's important to us that the law enforcement community in Wood County, that we have a unified front.
Yeah.
And that we work together, follow practically the same policies, and we consult with each other constantly on what are you doing about this? What do you think we should do about that? Just so that we don't send a mixed message out there.
Yeah, and that's so important right now too, because we're getting from way up top to way down to the bottom a lot of that. So the clearer the message, the better, and that really does go a long way. I've noticed that.
Yeah, and I have to say that some of the messages that we've gotten have not been very clear.
Yeah,
and we have had to decipher and try to kind of come up with some of these responses because we don't have sometimes a clear message, so it's left for interpretation.
Yes, while we all understand this situation that there's no playbook for, at the same time, some of these messages we get are like riddles that we got to decipher and stuff. And for you guys in a position where you are in that kind of authoritarian position, like government officials and certain things like that, but you're also in a different spot where this isn't a party thing for you. This isn't a political thing. This is a people thing for you guys.
Right.
It's why you got into this job, into this field and everything. So it's got to be even a little more frustrating where you're just trying to protect people. You're just trying to do this, what's best by your citizens, and you get these confusing things. So what I'd like to do, and I'll start with you, Sheriff Blevins, and then ask you, Shawn, this.
When did you get
Just
elected?
got promoted.
I just called you Sheriff Blevins. I'm going to be doing this the whole hour.
I can be chief today. That's fine. We'll do that.
As a quick PSA, get some sleep, kids.
Yeah, we're going to change jobs for a day.
I'm good with that. Let's try it.
When it comes to the safer at home order and keeping that kind of enforced, and have you noticed you and your colleagues having to make a lot of stops, make a lot of comments to people about this and everything?
Well, luckily, we've gotten, of course, we've had some contacts and things, but not to the extent that you would think, and I'm glad for that. Yeah. All along, and Chief Becker will he'll agree with me that our thing this whole time is to get voluntary compliance. The last thing that any of us want to do is have to enforce. Yeah. But that's not why I got into this business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have had a lot of the voluntary compliance has gone well. We have had to do a few reminders here and there. I have had a lot of conversations with business owners, and my heart goes out to these people. Yeah. When you hear that the straits that some of them are in, I mean, we need to reopen the state as soon as we can, or we're going to lose a lot of these businesses. And unfortunately, law enforcement, we've been placed in a weird position where the orders come from on high, but we're the boots on the ground that have to go enforce those.
Right.
And it's not a fun situation to be in, especially when you're face to face with these people and you're hearing their problems. Yeah.
To have to do that again, it's not an easy thing to do. Can you take some comfort in knowing that the overall reason you're doing this is for the good? In that it doesn't make things any easier to swallow by any means, but it is something that we're all in this together. Even though not everybody is struggling the same way, everybody has some kind of thing in their life or what have you that they're sacrificing right now. Some bigger than others, certainly. But does it help at all with that part of it? Because I'm trying to think of, again, silver linings and things that can help with just getting through the day, through the shift.
It does. It gives you some solace to know that these good intentions are the bottom line for these orders and for these stay-at-home restrictions and things. But yeah, it's tough again to to do these things.
Yeah.
There's agencies across the country that are struggling with do or don't on some of these orders.
And how about for you, Captain Smith? No, I'm just kidding. How about you, Shawn?
Very similar. Once the president declared the national emergency, and then it got down to the states, and the states could interpret how they're going to handle things. As far as the law enforcement community in Wood County, the first thing that we did is we started meeting because we needed to have, like you had mentioned, that unified front. Mm-hmm. We needed to work together on this. It's not just all about one department. There's 7 total law enforcement agencies in Wood County, and we needed to discuss how we're going to move forward with this. And as Chief Blevins had mentioned, the goal is voluntary compliance. Now, as we move forward, we're in our almost 8th week, 7th, 8th week. People are starting to get I want to say restless, but they'd like to see some rules relaxed, but we still have to look at the big picture. It's still a public health safety issue. Mm-hmm. We've all been working, like I said, together, being on the same page. The goal is voluntary compliance. We do not want to have to take enforcement action. The bottom line, that's our goal.
Yeah.
It's out, hey, if we get called to a situation, and we've had a few too, and it's just a reminder to folks that, hey, if you're violating the governor's order, here's a reminder, all right? Please abide by this. We know that it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us. We all have our personal beliefs, but we're all, we're both professionals.
Yeah.
And right now, this is considered the law. We're really anxiously looking forward to the Supreme Court's decision here coming up to see what direction that's going to go. Hopefully, there'll be some, modifications to the governor's order to have, some businesses open up, with some, whatever requirements that they're going to throw out there. But people are hurting right now. Mm-hmm. We're getting phone calls, and we really, feel for you. We understand, and we really hope that things, can change. We also have to look on the flip side of this too. It's still a public health crisis, mm-hmm. right? The statistics are out there, but you really, I wouldn't say you can't trust them, but you just don't, they're just so unknown that, we don't know how many people have been affected. I'll venture to say, do we just only have 2 in Wood County? Well, that's the only statistics we have right now, but there's probably more, but we don't know. And like I said, we're into this together as a law enforcement team. There's not one agency alone dealing with this. Mm-hmm. We all are, and it was very important for all of us to be working together and be on the same page. One of the first things we did besides meeting is put together a mutual aid agreement. Because this could affect us just as much as the people in the public. And some of the agencies within our county have modified their work schedules to make sure that they can have people available. Marshfield Police Department and Nakusa Police Department modified a schedule where their officers will work 6 days on straight, 12-hour shifts, and then have 12 off. So if they do have an exposure, they're going to have that time off. Both of our departments have that schedule that Marshfield's doing right now in our back pocket. So if we start to see some issues, within our community and within our agencies, we can move people around because we still have to provide a service to, the people in our county. But the important thing is that for us as law enforcement officers is we're all working together. The leaders are working together and moving forward. We're getting some, complaints. And the goal is, like I said, voluntary compliance. Spent, before I got on the radio, about 20 minutes on the phone with a pastor. And the frustration that, people wanted to worship. And I can't tell you can violate the order because you want to do that, but I understand the flip side of it. The mental health side of things are really starting to be taxing on people when they want to worship because that's good for them. And if there's ways that they can, I want to say, circumvent the governor's orders to have a worship service, and as long as you're within the governor's order, go for it. The drive-up services, and I know that people are out there, trying to work that in, and that's one thing. And I know Chief Blevins will say the same thing. Our calls of service have gone up quite a bit as far as welfare checks, mm-hmm. Domestic issues, things like that. So we know people are are suffering out there, and we're doing our best to get people through situations that are really hard right now. But we're working together, and again, voluntary compliance has been just our goal, and just got to keep moving forward. Hopefully, we'll get some good news here coming forward. There can be some modifications to the order where people can either open up their businesses, get out and do more things.
So much of life is a gray area. Much of life is not black and white. But when it comes to what you guys do for a living, more times than not, it's pretty black and white. Somebody's either breaking a law or not. Certain things like that. Not to say that's all you do, certainly, but one of the main parts of what you do. So it has to be, again, another frustration on top of that when you have this subject that is nothing but a gray area. And whatever your personal feelings are on it or anything like that, you can't get past the fact of the unknown and that gray area and everything. And that is a little worrisome when you come from a position of your job is to protect people, and that's all you want. That's what you want to do. Again, it's why you got into this and everything, to take care of your fellow citizens. And so you're trying to balance this. I got friends, or we're taking calls from people that want to reopen or want to serve, practice their faith. And at the same time, wanting to keep those same people safe. It can't be easy. But one of the things that you touched on there, Shawn, that I really appreciate, and I've picked this up from you guys before and talking off air and on air, is personal beliefs aside, you stick to the job. And I respect that so much. It's something that I don't know if we all grew up with. I know I didn't always, or with public officials, but I admire it so much when it happens. And I know it ain't easy. I know it's a lot easier said than done and everything, but I respect it and I appreciate it so much. What are some of not certainly what are the top 5 complaints you're getting or anything, but what are some of the things that you're hearing from people, and how are you addressing those? And I'll start with you, Police Chief Blevins.
In regards to the COVID issues?
Yes, yeah.
One of the things I've had discussions is one of my biggest concerns at this point. I know that the sheriff shares this concern, is we have now like eight some weeks or so we've been out of school, kids are home. We are very concerned about the drop in reporting for child abuse. The kids aren't in school, they're not with the teachers. There's a lot of these things. That's where a lot of the cases come from is the teachers and the mandated reporters at the schools. That we're not getting those, so we know it's happening. But that is one of my main drivers for reopening is for the kids too. Yeah. So that's a big concern. Others are again people's mental health. Just because we're not hearing or seeing them doesn't mean that these people aren't going through crisis at home. I know that the contacts and the interactions have dropped off because people are at home, so maybe some of these people aren't getting the help they need. Those types of things are my main concern.
I want to come back to that too, but Shawn, how about for you? And kind of the same thing?
Yeah, I would echo that. Just looking at, we talked about our jail and how we tried to, get our inmate population down to prepare for, potential people coming into the facility that have, could have the virus. But just seeing, the people that are coming into custody right now, a lot of it's domestic related, violent crimes and drug related, offenses. Bottom line, our jail is not closed. Right, I'll make that very clear. Yeah. But we did have to modify a few things as we move forward, just because we want to control our inmate population. So, seeing those, we get a roster every day of people that have been booked into our facility and what the charges are. And what's bothering me is seeing the people that are coming into custody into our facility are for violent offenses, and that tells me echoing. Some things that Chief Blevins has said, some things that are being reported are some serious things, and that worries me a lot.
I was joking with the guys earlier that I was going to try to find a way to shoehorn 80s and 90s baseball into the conversation so we could talk a little baseball. I honestly, going into the conversation, this was the big one I wanted to get into, and I didn't have a segue into it. I appreciate you guys not only certainly what you do for us as a community, what you're doing for our youth, what you're doing for kids, because that is something that I'm right with you on, Melvin. It is something that we need to not only pay more attention to, but it's one of those gray areas that we're not able to kind of get the stats or getting people reporting on these cases like we normally would, like you said, with teachers that are so often the ones that are reporting these cases, or at least giving you guys a heads up of what's going on. So given that, the situation, what it is there anything, what can we do as citizens when it comes to this? Because we all also don't want everybody peeking into people's windows. You know, we certainly
don't want
we
that.
don't want that, because that leads to that whole other scenario. But we do want to protect these kids. We do want to protect, and to kind of stretch that even in the bigger or to a bigger conversation too, with domestic violence. And oftentimes, from what you guys have been telling me here, and from what I've seen, just nationally, that number has gone down too as far as reported cases of that. We all know that doesn't mean that everybody's getting along. That tends to mean that things are just not being reported on. So what are things that we can do as citizens that can kind of help you guys in this, and in helping these kids and helping these families?
Well, just an awareness and talking about it right now is important. But if you do see something, knowing people that are struggling right now, there are resources out there. You can give our dispatch center a call. Obviously, if you see something illegal going on or you're hearing a disturbance, the expectation is please call us. And you can do it anonymously. You can do it through Crime Stoppers. But if you see it, please report it. Because in the end, we can be helping somebody out.
Right.
Yeah, Chief Blevins, I was going to let you add to that.
Yeah, I just think we do. We want to get help to the victims that need it. And if you hear your neighbors, or if you have a concern, we gladly would welcome the information. I mean, we're fully staffed, and we're here to help, and we want to. So, I mean, I know a lot of these folks are in the houses together. Mm-hmm. They've been together for a while. It hasn't gone away. It's just not being reported.
Yeah, it's often the case too, where it's because it's people in a house that they don't have a chance to reach out because they're constantly under surveillance or something like that. Those kind
Correct.
of things. That's why it is, again, so important for, if you see something, you know what's going on there or anything, to step up. It's something that we've talked about at the Family Center a lot. That it has been a big message for me is when it comes to like domestic violence, we'll say. Men holding other men accountable. That we start to call that as a cowardly act to hurt a child or a woman. That we are getting, we are unified. We're talking about unified front as men. We are unified on that. That there is a line we don't cross, and that is that line. That that you can root for whatever sports team you want. Maybe we don't get along on the same sports team and stuff, and we'll argue about that and debate about that like guys. But when it comes to that one topic, we don't falter on it. We don't. There is no wiggle room or anything. I said before that there's a lot of gray area in life. Not with that one. There's no gray area. It's black and white. You're either a coward or you are on this side, with the right side with this one. I think that while that doesn't necessarily certainly help individuals going through this right now or anything, hopefully as a team, all of us doing this together, we more and more create that kind of atmosphere in society where, hey, that ain't right. That's not okay. I keep coming back to this because it came up the other day talking to somebody about the Family Center and reaching out to them. But when I first moved out here, one of the first reasons I got a date with a girl is because I was nice to her. Because I wasn't violent or anything, which is not saying a lot about me and my charm, but it's also not saying a lot, when it comes to that kind of mentality that I'm not saying, by any means not saying that is the norm or that is everybody by any means or anything like that, but that kind of thing exists. That shouldn't happen. And so it's up to us, I believe, certainly you guys and what you do, but just even us men in general, me and Kev and everybody, holding that accountable.
And I forget, since we haven't been meeting face to face, you and I are on the board of the Family Center together.
Yeah.
And again, it's something when I first came here, 3 years ago now, Family Center was one of the first relationships I formed, and have really pushed my department's cooperation and partnership with the Family Center, because I believe in that so strongly, and so does Sheriff Becker with the office hours that we've established and just that relationship with them. I think that everybody's better off for it, and I do feel strongly about domestic violence. I always have, and just like you were saying, it's a coward that does.
Yeah. Have you guys? And I don't want this at all to sound like any judging or anything like that, because different eras, different times. I think when you talk about like greatest athletes of all time, you almost have to break it down to decade, because it's a different sport than what Wilt Chamberlain was playing in and what Michael Jordan is. That kind of thing. So I'm not you're the previous people that were running things before you guys and everything. It's nothing at all a point to them. But have you noticed a change in that, in the approach to whether it's child abuse, domestic violence, or anything like that, and the mentality once you guys kind of took over, and the vibe that you have tried to make when it comes to those subjects?
I think with me, the law is a law, okay?
Yeah.
And the statutes have been established the way they are, especially related to domestic violence, a long time. Probably with me, since being sheriff, and even before that, the priority I looked at is mental health, because it just connected so many different things.
Yeah.
And we've taken a lot of strides in over the last year, especially in our jail, in the changes back there. And I could brag all I want, but that's not number one how I am. This is a great segue for me. It's Corrections Week.
Right.
We're recognizing all of our corrections officers in the country. They have a thankless job. They have a very, very hard job, and they have probably one of the most important jobs when you look at law enforcement. All right, they're dealing with people that have made mistakes, and at some point will return back to the community. All right, or they're going to prison. It's either way. Even if they go to prison, they're coming back to the community. Now, the corrections staff, have to deal and deal with the inmates that are in custody, treat them professionally, and there's sometimes they're not treating them back professionally.
Right.
And it's a very hard job, and I'm very proud of our staff and what they've been doing. The last 16 months has been outstanding. Captain Ted Ashbeck has done an outstanding job through the transition, and we're on the same page as we move forward. And prioritizing not only our staff, but mental health. That's probably something that I could spend a whole show on.
Yeah.
But we've made a lot of changes back in our jail, and just looking at the mental health side of things, I feel that they're working, and we've expanded hours of providing mental health services, not only just to the inmates, but having the opportunity for our staff to have a professional to talk to that puts in over 40 hours a week is a great relationship that we have. So that'll probably be the biggest change if I could talk about, not just, our previous sheriff, but the ones before that, just how things have evolved towards the mental health side of things and how that fits into law enforcement is huge.
It's a key part of this going forward with it, I think, and it's something that I've enjoyed talking with you about from the beginning. Chief Blevins, did you want to add anything with that?
Well, agreeing with Shawn again, the future of law enforcement is going to be that mental health treatment, and mental health affects so many facets of society, and leads to so many different reasons for law enforcement contacts. I think that as a country, we need to do a better job with the diagnosis and the treatment of mental illness, rather than leaving it as a law enforcement issue.
Yeah, for way too long, it feels like we're talking like almost 30, 40 years here when you go back to when they used to have asylums and everything, and those kind of started closing down, and all of a sudden they were still people with mental issues. They just didn't have the asylum anymore, so then they go into the street. They
end up in the jails and the prisons, because where else do we put them?
Right, and so it becomes all of a sudden they were kind of like, well, now it's your guys' problem, and they never gave you guys any like training or any of these things to take care of that issue. You're put in the position where okay, I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't sit there and, as I'm making a ticket out, also give them a diagnosis and a prescription or something like that. I mean, it really put our law enforcement agencies in an incredibly difficult position when it came to that. And now we're here trying to make it right. Now we're here trying to get things, somewhat as close to right as we can. I appreciate that we have people like yourselves, though, that see that, because not every county, not every city has that kind of thing where we have people who are taking that approach to it. It's the only way we're going to get forward with this, though, is to kind of attack it that way. We are speaking with Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker. We have Wisconsin Rapids Police Chief Blevins in with us as well, and our good friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. We're going to take a break, but I want to remind you, gang, that you can call in with your phone call with your questions at 715-424-2600. We'll come back with more with everybody here on Morning Magazine, AM 1320, WFHR. And welcome back to Morning Magazine, everybody. We appreciate you joining us. We're also open to taking your phone calls for Sheriff Becker or Chief Blevins here. I guess if you have a question for me or Kevin at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, that's okay, but more for these guys, 424-2600. Coming back here, I wanted to touch on again on a Corrections Week.
Yeah.
If we can start there. You hit it on the head earlier, Shawn. It's something that we don't get a chance to talk about enough.
No, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, our corrections officers, no matter where you work, whether it's Wood County, Portage County, Marathon County, anywhere that you're a corrections officer, it's your week. But I'll tell you what, every week's your week. You all have the toughest job coming into the law enforcement realm of things. You have probably, in my opinion, the most important job. As I mentioned before. The people that have made mistakes that are in custody will return back to the community, and that buy-in, like I mentioned, mental health, and even beyond that, the true success stories, as in my opinion, as a corrections officer, is seeing somebody leave, being in jail, they've done their time, and then you see them out in the community and they say thank you to you. And I've had a few corrections officers tell me that they don't want to come back. It's great to see outside of the walls. Yeah. And for me, as if I was a corrections officer, that would be exhilarating to know that I did make a change in somebody's life, and they didn't come back. And we talked about the recidivism rate, and I think that's where it really starts on working that is with the staff, and treating people professionally and courteously when they are in custody. I think that can be a learned behavior. And that's kind of the groundwork, and then bringing in the mental health side of things and trying to help people out as they are in custody. We put in a grant for a discharge planner, and I'm hoping that we get that, because that's a key component to people that are returning to the community. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But again, Corrections Week, hats off to everybody that puts on that uniform and comes into a jail, a facility to make sure people are safe while they are, in custody. So,
before the break, you kind of were touching on the job itself and some of the details of it. What are some things that people might not know that a corrections officer has to do on a daily basis?
Well, for us, the priority are the inmates, keeping them safe. So our corrections officers, if you look at our jail, and it's an older jail, and that's another discussion on what direction our county is going to go as far as remodeling our facility or building a facility or leaving it as is. But with the style of our jail, it's a linear style. So our corrections officers are walking a lot. I'd like to know what the steps they put in a 12-hour shift.
Yeah.
Because it's the style. You have to literally get up and go check on people, and we require the staff to check on all inmates every half hour. If they're on a suicide or a mental health watch, then it's every 15 minutes. So there's a lot of foot traffic going on. Then you got to add into, whether that they're bookends, classifying inmates and what cell block they can be in. There's a lot going on. Then we have a jail control position where you have most every inch of the jail is on video. Most of it is. And we just upgraded our video system because of the need, because the facility is older. But you have somebody that's in jail control now watching every single camera angle of the facility, which is a lot. But no, it's a hard job, but I'm really proud of our staff. Again, all of our command staff in our jail, and starts up at the top with Captain Ted Ashbeck, Lieutenants Melissa Sager and Susanna Pearson. They're doing an outstanding job with with how they run our jail.
When it comes to we've been talking a lot about the healthcare industry and the frontline workers, people on the front lines, and that, and certainly with good reason. Any chance we get to mention them and thank them, we certainly should. But with that comes a lot of people that we don't get a chance to mention, and it's part of the reason why I'm so glad to be able to bring up this Corrections Week. Why I'm glad to have you guys in and talk about you yourselves as well as everybody in your staff that are out there on the front line doing this and keeping us safe. Again, I'm a big Westerns fan, so you want to know what it's like without these guys, go watch a Western. And yeah, it's not pretty. It makes a good movie, not a good reality. So we appreciate what
More
you
like
guys
The
are.
Purge.
Yeah, that's a little more accurate, actually. And another part of it that I think about too when it comes to this, and I'm a big believer in the silver lining and finding that no matter how dark the sky is, finding that silver lining. One of the things that I have noticed, and I'm sure that many of our listeners have, is you guys having a chance to, more times than not, you're seeing people on the worst day of their lives and having to deal with that and handle that. Not just them as a person, but you on your own soul, you and the taxing thing that does to you and everything. How good has it been to kind of do some of these things like we had as one of our good stories of the day the other day, wishing the little kid a happy birthday and having the parade kind of in front of her house and stuff like that. I'll start with you, Chief Blevins. How has that been for you, kind of, again, finding silver linings here?
Absolutely. Those things are people need to see the positives like that. If we can do that, it's not hard to put together, but it makes somebody's day. These they don't get their birthday parties at school. They don't get the cupcakes so if we can go by the house and make them smile and be, that's why we're here. We serve the public and we want to make the public their lives better in some small way. So if you make somebody smile once a day, you're good to go. And we've tried so hard throughout this thing. Shout out to the guys at the Rapids PD who were reading the books online.
Yeah, that's another one
on
I
our
wanna bring up.
Facebook page.
That's so cool.
The response we got from that was incredible.
Awesome.
To the point where Facebook said we had too many views and they shut us down. And
Wow.
Is that the book you read? Yeah, staff kind of messed with them and gave them a really interesting book.
Yeah.
yeah, they did.
A lot
They
of props,
gave.
though. Those words were. I
Well,
don't
yeah.
think I could say it.
They said you can't look at it beforehand. You just have to sit down and read it.
Oh,
And we
that's
did.
a fantastic
And it
joke.
Watch it.
It was.
That's good.
Yeah.
Chief's facial expressions. I don't know.
That's awesome.
I hate to say it, but I was laughing with you.
Yeah, it was,
Right.
And
With
if you
you.
do
We're
anything else,
laughing with
watch the blooper reel.
Yes.
At the
Yeah.
end, because that was the best. But those are the things, trying to reach out to the kids, because our guys like to go to the schools and read to the kids and hang out, and we couldn't do that, and we know that the kids were missing out on that, so we try to do things like that. So we know that brightens somebody's day a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's important to us. We need some good news and we need some smiles.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't get enough of it.
The birthday parades are, I know we're getting lots of requests for them, and we'll accommodate every single one that we can. It's just to see, the kids smile when you drive through a neighborhood, and that's the least we can do. Honestly, we're already working. If we're available and we get a call, we've done them here in Wisconsin Rapids, Marshfield, out in the county. Last Saturday we had a couple of them that, the fire departments get involved, and just to see 2 or 4 or 8 or 12 or however old, child smile.
Yeah.
With their parents.
Yeah, and to mention that cooperation thing again, a couple of days ago, we were swamped and all of our guys were busy. Their request came in and the county went over and did it.
Yeah.
Just because we couldn't. So law enforcement showed up one way or the other.
Yeah.
So
No, it's just I don't want to say it's a duty, but it kind of is. I mean, we're
it's part of our
Yeah.
job.
I get it.
If we can, that's community-oriented policing. We get an opportunity just to go out and just do something nice for somebody. That's what part of
That's why I put the badge on.
Yeah.
Right on. I don't think it's something that as citizens we'd expect of you, but I appreciate that, and I think that that's something that we have a lot of respect for, that you consider that a part of the duty, a part of the job and everything, and part of why you got into this and put that badge on and everything in the first place. It's got to come back to that for you time and time again, especially, again, when you're dealing with such hard times. Even in normal circumstances, you're dealing with hard times and everything. because you guys don't get the chance to 9 times out of 10 your call is not going to check out a kid's birthday party and make sure that everybody has enough cake. That's not your gig, I mean, it's a lot tougher job than that.
Yeah.
So when you have these moments, I imagine that it's got to feel just as good for those little kids as it does for you guys.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say that it's important for my officers' mental well-being to go and have those positive interactions with people in that way.
Good note.
Instead of just always showing up when somebody's at their darkest hour, to go and read to the kids and get the smiles and the hugs. I mean, that's just as important for the officers as it is for the citizens.
Well, and something we were talking off air, Chief, was about needing more good news and needing news stations to lead with more good news stories and put more good news stories out there. So me and Sheriff Becker talked about this so many times, where more times than not, the only time we see police news is bad news. And we need to shift that. We need to cover that stuff, certainly. You guys feel that way stronger than anybody, I'm sure, as far as when it comes to bad policing or anything like that. That makes you look bad. You don't want that any more than we do as citizens. But we also need to do a job as citizens to hunt down these good stories, to make sure that we're looking for them, as well as spreading the word about them, whether you're in a position like I am or if you're just an everyday person out there, bringing it up with your friends and family and spreading this, over the water cooler kind of talk. Because, again, you can have two worlds. I think that we're all intelligent enough, we can have two thoughts in our head at a time. We know that there are, in every field in the world, there are bad apples and good apples. And we need to be able to highlight both the same, be able to look at them both the same.
For so long, and I know that it's, for myself, it's troubled me, is that we live in this doom and gloom culture, it seems, where everything is drama and bad news. Yeah. We know there's good stuff happening. Yep. I challenge the media to show people some hope and some positive stuff. Yeah. People need some positives in their life. If it's always, from either COVID to now murder hornets, apparently, it's like, what else are we going to be afraid of? Let's have a little bit of good news. Something positive's happening somewhere. Let's report that.
If time allows, I want to know how you're going to handle this arresting of murder hornets.
I'm getting a wiffle bat.
That's all you can do. We do have a call coming in, so I want to give you guys a chance to put the headphones on really quick and take this call. Again, we appreciate our callers calling up with questions. Do you have a question for the gentleman here?
Yes, I do. It's always a good show whenever you have the sheriff and the chief on. But I was wondering, I know that the sheriff is a baseball card collector, and I remember getting some police baseball cards when I was a kid. Do they still do that?
Great question. Well, we appreciate the hard-hitting question, man. Thank you so much, Matt. We appreciate you.
Well, I got to give props again to the police chief because they do have cards, and one of your officers did give me a stockpile, just so you know.
Nice.
So I do give them out. They do say Wisconsin Rapids Police Department on them, but yeah, I'm a huge card collector. But as of right now, we're still working on trying to get some Packer cards. No promises yet, but that's the direction that I'd like to get out there because it's again, of course, I'm very biased because I hate to admit I still collect cards. Just please don't tell my wife, Julie.
Sure. This is just between us anyway. Yeah.
But no, that's a great question. We're working on it, but I know the PD has them.
I when I think about that, some of my earliest, where I grew up, it was certainly different. And my relationship with police officers was a different one, not just on them, but on me as a knucklehead kid. But one of the things when I moved out here that was such a bridge to where I am now, being, talking with you guys and all those things and everything, was them handing out police baseball cards to us and stuff. And it's such a perfect question for what we're talking about here, too, because not only do we need those good news stories, we need more and more for the youth to see that talking to police officers, working with police officers, they're safe. This is a good thing. This is okay. We want that in society. More than ever, coming back to the conversation about child abuse and these kind of things. We want those kids to feel comfortable coming to you guys and talking about stuff.
Exactly.
It is that much more important for us in media and that to put these good stories out there to make sure that we're showing people, hey, there's some bad apples here and there. We're getting rid of those. We've got the good guys still.
The
We've
kids
got
need
this.
to see us as the helpers. They can't be afraid of us.
Yeah, it's important. It's very important. So we appreciate the question there, and it worked perfectly with everything.
It reminds me to do that card program or keep it going.
Right up. We're going to take our last break here. We'll come back with more with the guys here on AM 1320 WFHR's Morning Magazine, where you've got Morning Magazine. We have Wisconsin Rapids Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker and Wisconsin Rapids Police Chief Blevins with us, along with Kevin, our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. I will see if I can mix all those names up even more. and before the end of this show, I'm going to have Kevin being a captain. Guys, we were just kind of talking about something off air, and I'd like to dive right into, and the way that the departments have kind of been trying to help out smaller businesses. And Chief, if you want to start with that.
Yeah, like I said, off air, we were having a conversation about these businesses and some of the like the tattoo parlor, how they've been out of business for a long time, and they're one of those face-to-face businesses that just are forbidden to operate right now, but they've got rent and bills to pay. And I've had conversations with the owner, and I feel for the guy. In law enforcement, again, we're helpers, and businesses are one of those things that we're sworn to help. I had several conversations with some of the dog groomers in the area, and they were hurting. They were forced to close. Law enforcement went to bat for the dog groomers, made some phone calls, negotiated with the health department, and got them to open up for curbside service, which I'm sure they're thankful for, because at least now they can they've got some revenue coming in. They can pay their rent and pay their put some food on the table. Mm-hmm. If we could do that for more businesses, we would love it. Wisconsin Rapids, the city of, has just recently has mirrored Stevens Point and Marshfield with the small business grants that they've opened up the application process for, just to try to help these small businesses in the city to get through this thing, which I applaud the city for doing that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm incredibly thankful, especially even from a bias level of some of these people that are friends and people that I know and everything. So I'm really thankful you guys are going to bat for it, especially since, being honest about it, it shouldn't be something you have to do. You guys shouldn't have to do this. Your plates are full already. As a kind of government or any of these other people that should be doing this, they should be. So we thank you all the more for that kind of thing and backing these guys and these citizens, which I know it's part of your job, and it's not something that you look at it that way. But just as somebody who's looking at you guys, what you do on a daily basis already, you shouldn't have to add this on top of it. But we appreciate it. We
Our
certainly
plates
do.
get bigger all the time.
Really do, don't they, man?
Bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the attitude, again, why we appreciate so much you guys being in this position, too. I wanted to, because we only got a couple minutes left, so I wanted to leave it open if there was anything you wanted to touch on.
Just two things to remind or just to bring up. Number one, it's Corrections Week, and again, to all the corrections officers out there, thank you. Thank you so much. Also, we had talked about off air a little bit about, we did a dedication to the healthcare workers on both ends of our county. We're blessed here in Wood County to have two good-sized hospitals. And we had discussed it amongst ourselves on how can we do something to appreciate them. And we did one down here at Aspires here in Wisconsin Rapids, where one morning when the healthcare workers were coming into work, we had as many emergency vehicles there just with the lights on to show appreciation. And we did something similar up at Marshfield Medical Center, where we had several emergency vehicles just drive around the whole campus, just leaving the lights on, putting the siren on periodically, just to show, the true heroes right now are medical, care people, our medical providers. I know they're hurting right now. There's been lots of layoffs in the medical professionals have been, struggling as well. And they're on the front line. Those folks are our heroes right now. We've been lucky we haven't had the surge yet. It could still happen. I'm very comfortable to say that our medical professionals are prepared. And we've been moving forward with them. They've been communicating with us quite frequently. And again, a huge shout out to those folks. Those are our heroes as we move forward here.
When it comes to one of the things that we've talked about in the past too is the cooperation between different departments. You guys have been doing that for a while now. How much did that help when it came to this coming down, when this all happened and everything, and you guys already know each other's names from other departments and the Point and Marshfield people and all that, the camaraderie kind of being on the same page, coming back to that a bit.
That's huge.
Yeah.
The fact that prior to this pandemic or crisis, the lines of communication were already open. I mean, Shawn and I are friends. We talk all the time. The fact that you could just pick up the phone and get through, and that starts your planning process right away. We don't have to hammer out the rules of how we're gonna. We talk on a daily basis, and it just makes these things so much easier. Not only Shawn and I, but Rick up in Marshfield, the fire departments, the fire chiefs, the health department people. Wood County is well served in a public safety sense as far as that goes, because we do have those lines of communication open, and we try hard.
Yeah, and it's noteworthy, and it's something that when this first happened, it was one of the things that I know a number of people out there felt reassured about, that, well, you guys already know each other's names. You guys are already talking and everything. So as far as not just our county, but just in general, central Wisconsin even, and looking at it that broader perspective, made us feel a lot better, more comfortable that, hey, whatever they know in Point, you guys are going to know here, and vice versa, and all that, sharing information. We all know that wasn't always the case, not just here, I mean nationally, in departments throughout the whole world even, So the more and more we see this, the better it is, and the stronger we are from it, because what's the phrase we keep coming back to? We're stronger together. And it's true. It's not just a phrase, it's true.
No, it's true.
No, and that,
I promise, guys, we're going to have a show where we just talk sports. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Thank you for the cards.
Right on.
And Harold Baines.
And thank you, both of you, your departments, everybody that works with you, certainly our corrections officers out there, and everybody being on these lines and taking care and keeping us safe. You guys stay strong and safe. And thanks again for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And a big thank you to our friends at Wisconsin Community Media, too, for being with us and doing the great work they always do. Well, then more Morning Magazine for you tomorrow right here on AM 1320 WFHR.